So are entering the next wave of what it looks like to work on a day-to-day basis with the rise of AI and over the past several months, AI agents and the rise of agentic workflows. You're now able to increase your level of productivity and capacity and ability to just get things done significantly by virtue of tooling and frameworks that are being created both by foundational AI models and infrastructure companies like your OpenAIs, like your Anthropics, and also businesses that are building out tooling that are niche and specific to different use cases. In this video, I want to talk about how to get started leveraging the AI frameworks, tooling, and how to really think about these concepts that are coming about in order to effectively apply it to your work, whether that may be your business or that may be anything else that you do on a day to day basis. So, getting right into this, I want to convey this in terms of these AI coding models and what they're enabling. So, when you look at Anthropic, which are the founders of the Claude models, and they also launched Claude Code, which is one of the most powerful coding models currently on the market. Or you look at OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT, and they launched the Codex coding model, which rivals Claude Code. They have something called Codex Max that is able to autonomously create code and software applications at the highest level. When you think about these tooling on a foundational level, you kind of look at it like this is just for creating software. And that is where it starts, right? Whether you're thinking about web apps, mobile apps, extensions, desktop apps, you can build all kinds of software now. And that we've crossed a chasm to where if you have a command of the English language and you know how to navigate around these different tools and environments, there is very little that you can't build. Depending on the complexity, if it's something that's more complex, you may be able to get out an MVP or an early version of a more sort of intricate product. With something that's less complex, you can build and actually take something to scale. Now, the launch of Opus 4.5, Claude Opus 4.5, and GPT 5.2, which are the models that are driving these coding platforms. When you use Claude Code, you can use it with Opus 4.5, you can use it with Opus 4, you can use it with Claude Sonnet 4, 3.5. You can use these different Claude coding models, but the most powerful one is Opus, which is the most agentic of the bunch, meaning that it's able to call these different what are called tools that give it capability to connect or speak to different software. It might be software within your tech stack. It might be tasks that you need to complete. And the same thing with the OpenAI models. GPT 5.2 is the highest level, that's the most agentic, but you can also use Codex with other OpenAI models. Now, being that you have these highly agentic models that can operate on their own with some guidance, of course, it provides an opportunity to start delegating different kind of work to these tools. And so when you're looking at it from the models and the tooling itself, it can feel a little bit elusive, right? Claude Code, and you see I have down here Claude Skills, Claude Chrome extension, Codex, Codex Skills, Atlas. So these tooling operate in different places across the internet and your computer itself, whether that may be your actual computer's terminal or whether that may be in the cloud within the Anthropic Claude website or connected through other third parties. Same thing with Codex, right? You can use Codex within ChatGPT. You can use Codex uh, within your actual computer terminal. And it can feel elusive when you're kind of looking at it in that sort of way. And so, really thinking about the each of the different aspects of the overall engine, if you will, is very helpful. So Claude Code and Codex, you're really thinking of them as the harness that allows you to run these coding models. Now, what I want to talk about next are the skills. So Claude Skills, which this is a kind of feature that Anthropic added to Claude where you can actually develop skills for specific kinds of tasks or objectives that you need done. So you can create a skill for a presentation. You can create a skill for a spreadsheets. And so maybe there's a kind of brand styling that you have for your company. Maybe there a repeating kind of task that you have to get done, a newsletter or a document. And you can create a skill that will help you perform those actions autonomously. Maybe you have skills for how to create landing pages and how your copy should be on landing pages, what your header should look like, what your footer should look like, what the bodies should look like, and how to ensure that it's higher performing. So the way that these skills work in Claude, you'll see that if you're on a paid account, so you have to be on at least the pro account. If you go down to abilities, you have the ability to add different skills, and they provide you with example skills that you can use. So as I was mentioning, you might have a skill for designing. You might have a skill for brand guidelines. You might have a skill that helps you build MCP servers, and you can create your own skills. Anthropic even has a skill creator that you can use to create skills. And all you do to use it is within a chat within Claude, you literally just prompt for a skill to be created. So if you turn on that skill, as you saw how it was toggled on, you would just type in, can you help me create a skill to do XYZ, a skill to write effective tweets. And you can start going through that process of what it looks like to create the skill. So I don't want to touch on creating skills at this time. I want to kind of give an overview of how to start to think about the world that we're moving into. So I've mentioned Claude skills. Now, OpenAI recently announced their own skills feature. So there is now Codex skills that is built off of the Claude standard, the Claude skills standard. And so I showed what to do to start building out a skill in Claude. Now, if you go to Cursor, and on the bottom left, you'll see here I have Codex extension right here. You can add different extensions into your Cursor platform. You can add the Gemini CLI to code with Gemini from Google. You can add Code Rabbit to do code reviews. The Codex extension allows you to integrate the OpenAI coding tooling into Cursor, where it's now connected to your ChatGPT account versus being connected to your Cursor account. Because in Cursor, you can also simply use the composer and code with these different models within the composer. Now, what I want to point you to is within the Codex extension, if you click /, you'll see at the bottom skill-creator and skill-installer. So you can actually install existing skills that either you have or that have been curated by OpenAI, or you can create your own skill in a similar way to how I explained with Claude. So I could say, for example, here, help me create a skill that does XYZ. So I attempted it before. I was prompting it to have me create a skill that helps with getting ready to submit apps to the ChatGPT store. You can create a skill for anything. And what these skills actually are, if you're wondering, they're actually just folders. They're folders with scripts inside of these folders that are tasked to take deterministic actions. So you know that once you've created a skill, that the AI will do what you have tasked for it to do, because it's following an actual script, and you won't have to worry about hallucination in the same sort of way. And so you can expect to get more consistent kind of results. But this is on the OpenAI Codex side, and you can run Codex within Cursor, as I've conveyed. Now, you can also run Claude Code within Cursor. So if you go to the bottom left, click, and then click on Terminal. If you type Claude after already having Claude Code installed, you will see Claude Code pop up. And so in order to actually install Claude Code, if you come over to code.claude.com/docs, you can find the documentation in order to actually get Claude Code into a platform like Cursor. And what you'll do is here specifically, so standard installation, where it says if you have Node.js 18 or newer installed, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to nodejs.org, click on get node.js, and then you're going to download Node.js. If you're on a Mac, I'm on a Mac, so you click on the Mac OS installer, and you just have to install it onto your computer. And then once you have that installed, you can come back here and you're going to copy the npm install right here, and you can just paste that into that same terminal that I showed you where I just pasted in Claude. And so when you paste in Claude, after you have it installed, Claude Code will actually pop up. So now you can use Codex tooling, you can use the Claude Code tooling, you can use the native cursor tooling and the models associated with it. And these are 3 different experiences, right? All within this container here. And the same goes for an anti-gravity, Google's AI native development environment, where you can install these platforms here. You can add these extensions here, and they all have the different compatibilities and what you can do with them. Now, as I've conveyed, this is 3 different experiences using the Claude Code extension, the Codex extension, or dealing with Cursor natively and using the models that are attached to Cursor. And so you can mix and match, you can experiment, you can see what you like. But what you'll find is that there are multiple ways to skin a cat. Many would argue that the Claude Code integration here, whether you're using it within here, whether you're using Claude Code within Claude itself, like the actual desktop software of Claude itself, whether you're running Claude Code from your computer's terminal, that has the most effective, they call it harness. The model that's running with the tooling works the best. Some would argue, fewer people, but some would argue that the Codex integration has the best harness. From what I've seen, they have their pros and cons. When you're using Codex, you'll notice that it tends to be a lot slower, but it may follow your directions a little bit better. When you're using Claude Code, it moves faster. It feels more vibey, if you will, right? When the term feel the AGI is definitely in effect with that. And it gets it done, especially when you're using Opus 4.5, because you can use these different Claude models within that Claude tool, the Claude Code tooling. You can use Opus 4.5, you can use Opus 4, you can use Sonnet 3.5, and same thing with Codex. If you look at the integration here, you can choose from the different models, GPT 5.2, GPT 5.1, Codex, and so you have different choices and different levels of reasoning that you can use as well. And so when you move beyond, let's say, the lovables and bolts and these user-friendly sort of app builder platforms to the more agentic workspaces, I would say that even go beyond apps, you have so much flexibility and so much control over how you wield them. Now, the next step in all of this is the browser. So something that these platforms can do, Cursor, and I bring up anti-gravity because it's Google product and it's a competitive Cursor. It's free to use currently right now, although you do get rate limited at a certain point unless you're on a plan of Google Gemini. These platforms now have browser use. So you can prompt for them to go to specific websites, for them to analyze documentation on specific websites, bring it back to you, have them take screenshots and put it as a part of a plan to create a software or to just take action in general. And that browser use now adds another element to all of this where you can now get more done effectively. Because if you experience an error or a bug while using one of these agents, the fact that it can actually go to the website and look through the console of the browser and see what the errors are and take its own screenshot and bring it back to the composer or to the chat and now self-correct or iterate on its own, you can have the coding model running for hours on end and it's completing tasks for you. That's what the browser use affords. And I have here browser use and I have down here MCP servers. I don't have computer use because it's not all the way there yet. But computer use will be to where the large language models and the tooling around it can actually connect and take control of the applications on your computer itself. And that's when it goes to the next level from here. But having browser use and then having these MCP servers, so the MCP servers, you can look at them like plugins for your AI agents, allows you to connect these AI platforms like a Cursor to other software that you need access to. So an example would be I recently built out a project management tool, and I used a back-end platform. This back-end platform is called InsForge, and I connected it to a repo that I have on Cursor, and I built out the front-end UI for it. And InsForge is an AI native back-end platform, so it actually has an MCP connection that you can use through an MCP server will connect Cursor and your repo on Cursor to that platform. You can look at Ins4 as kind of like a super base for, but like more AI native version of it. And I was now able to start updating this repo, this project I was working on, simply through the prompts I was using within Cursor. And it made the whole process significantly easier. So that's just one example. But having access to MCP server connections, having access to browser use to where you can connect to these different MCP servers, whether it's CRMs, whether it's project management tools, whether it's scraping platforms, platforms for lead generation, marketing, operate, like whatever platforms you need to connect to that can be connected through MCP servers, and then having access to browser use where the the platforms can take screenshots, can go onto websites, take screenshots, scrape, bring the information back, self-correct. You can really start to when they say 10x your productivity, that is what it enables you to do. And so that is browser use within Cursor and Anti-Gravity. Now, Claude has come out with their Chrome extension. It's a Chrome extension, and then whereas OpenAI has their Atlas platform, that's their agentic browser. And so it's a similar sort of concept to where it's something that's actually connected to your experience as you're using the internet, and in this very similar way, however, can take over your browser. And you can put in your own prompts to the chat, how you would in, let's say, when you're using a cursor. But these are all variations of the same kind of concept: browser use, having access to your browser. And when you combine all of these different properties and features and capabilities, and you have a command of them, and you know the scenarios to use what, when to use a skill in combination with the browser use, in combination with the agent, with the MCP server, you can really do some very, very powerful things. And it goes beyond building apps to how you perform your marketing, to how you manage your projects, to how you analyze data, to how you operate your business overall. And so that's what is the next wave. Now, in future videos, I'm definitely going to be going into some of the specifics around these things. So we could talk about how to create skills, Claude skills or Codex skills. We could talk about some of the different scenarios around, I mentioned one for the browser use, but what it looks like in action, in effect, connecting to these MCP servers, which are now becoming a lot more sturdy and robust, and what will likely also continue to develop from here to make other environments that we work in more agentic. So we've crossed a chasm, and this isn't about, in this particular case, just building software. This is about, maybe about building software, maybe about building your apps and in the whole nine, which is where there's a very real opportunity right now to build all sorts of apps and turn them into products, whether for yourself or something to bring to the market. But there's also now an opportunity to, when you think about the idea of integrating or implementing AI into your work, your day-to-day work, we've now crossed that chasm, because the term, shout out to AI automation, that term AI automation is something that it's really been automation up until this point, and a sprinkle of AI, like the kind of workflows and the kind of implementation that you can do in businesses that will be actually effective has been more so automation than it has been AI. But with the release of your Opus 4.5s, your GPT 5.2s, these capabilities that are now enabled, we can throw a Gemini 3 in there, and the environments, you're now able to really do a lot more with actually implementing AI in a way that will transform the work that you're doing. So these are the kinds of conversations we're going to be getting more and more into, and we're going to be talking about, along with the products, these AI native products that we're building out in Vibe Code Pioneers. So if you want to join the conversation, definitely check out Vibe Code Pioneers. The link to that is in the description. But other than that, I hope this was very helpful for kind of starting to paint that picture. If you have any questions or any specific topics you want to go further into, drop those in the comments as well, so we can really start to push the conversation forward.